Retro.
Hi, this is Emily Swallow, the Armorer in The Mandalorian. You're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. This is the way.
Hello, and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about some recent Star Wars news. But Jay, you want to go ahead and give everyone our social media contacts before we get started?
Yes, and happy Revenge of the 5th. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right, the dish is aligned, the signal's boosted to maximum output, the shield is down, we are now broadcasting to the galaxy. And Jay, I would ask you, how your May the 4th went, but it hasn't happened at the time we're recording this. We're recording this a little bit in advance. We just know that did happen. And so you're right. Yeah, Revenge of the 5th. That's coming up. But we did have another Star Wars event to celebrate, and that was Revenge of the Sith was in theaters for a week. Expired last Wednesday. And I know you got an opportunity to go see it in theaters. Let's talk about our experiences there. How was it for you?
Oh my gosh, it's so great. So I got to see it twice. So once with a couple of teacher friends of mine that the three of us got together on the Saturday and went to a Regal cinema. No merchandise there. They said that they didn't get they actually sold out the night before, which would have been when it, came out premiered, I guess. Well, it was Thursday night, I guess. But it was wonderful because one of the gals was 25, so she had never seen it in theaters the first time around, so it was pretty magical for her, obviously. And then I got to see it a second time with my son Colby Wan at a Cinemark theater, and they also did not have merch, which I was really upset. When I went up to the popcorn area, I said, please tell me you have the Revenge of the Sith buckets, and they said we didn't get any of them. So I was really, really super bummed about that. But oh my gosh, just it's so glorious to see on the big screen. And I'm telling you what, Dennis, it's crazy because my husband kind of teased me. He's like, so did anything new happen? I'm like, no, but I actually noticed like some different things that I don't think I ever noticed before.
Yeah,
So
I
I
had that
was,
experience too.
oh my gosh, okay, awesome. Yeah,
We'll
like
get into that in just a second.
yeah, there's just so many things. So it was amazing. But how about your experience?
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, I went and saw it at the Alamo Draft House. They weren't carrying any type of the merchandise there. They didn't have the popcorn buckets or the sippers or anything like that. And they just generally don't. If they have merchandise for a movie, I think they bought Mondo at one point, who used to do the different prints and things like that. But occasionally they'll do some sort of a commemorative glass. Think back to the old Burger King Star Wars glass days
Oh
and the
yeah.
like. They don't do that as often. I do see that they have one available for Thunderbolts right now if you want something like that. So at the Alamo, we have it's like so many theaters. You have the recliners and they have the folk grill and stuff like that. They bring their popcorn in a middle bowl too. So they just aren't doing the commemorative buckets and stuff like that. So didn't have to worry about the merch, but it was just so great to see that movie on a big screen with a first-rate surround sound system.
Yes.
That movie, one, John Williams' score sounds the best when you're in the theater. Two, that movie opens and you got things like the Jedi Star Cruiser at the beginning fly by, and you can feel the rumbling in your chest from that sound and the way that worked out. That just
So
was
true.
such an amazing experience. You're talking about your friend who never got to see that in the theater. Well, my oldest was one when this movie came, not even one when this movie came out, and my youngest hadn't even been born yet. So they never had an opportunity to see it in the theater. So any opportunity I can take my kids, they're practically adult. Well, one is an adult. The other one's about to become an adult, to see a Star Wars movie, go see a Star Wars movie with them. I'll take that any chance I can get. And Star Wars is always better in the theater. Is just an experience that is hard to pass up.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was funny because my oldest one who's 25 and he lives, pretty far away. I said, "Oh, you got to try to see this in theaters." He's like, "Yeah, because we weren't allowed when we were little." I'm like, "Yeah, because you were 5 and Colby one was 3. So,
Uh-huh.
no, I was not taking you to the theater to
A
see this."
PG-13 movie, yeah. So, so you mentioned some things that you noticed for the first time when you saw it in this video. When you saw it in this viewing, what was something you noticed?
Well, one of the things was the switch from the blue guards that Palpatine had to the red guards, and I
Oh, okay.
feel like the first time we see them is in the Opera House, in the box. So
Mhm.
before that, you see the blue guards, and so I was like, "Oh, okay, that's very interesting." And then, just little things about, just details of certain scenes and even down to, the texture of the clothing and, gosh, there was just so many different things. And, and Colby one and I were talking about even more philosophical sorts of things. And just for me, I think the biggest takeaway was just how Obi-Wan was so I feel so bad for Obi-Wan. Let's just put it that way. He was put
Okay.
into such a terrible position. But, detail-wise, I think the number one thing that stood out to me was the guards. But what
Mhm.
about you? What were some things that stood out?
Oh, there's a lot, and I'm not gonna remember them all, but you just mentioned the Opera House. There's a number of scenes in the Opera House when they were looking out over the Mancala. What is it? Is it a
The
choir? I mean,
ballet.
the
Yeah.
opera,
I
the
think it's like
Mancala
an
Opera.
aqua opera. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you could see, like, other members of the audience out there in more detail than I've ever seen before, and
Mhm.
I remember being struck that I noticed a few different aliens outside, leading up the steps into that balcony seating that, Palpatine had as well. I also noticed the Betty droids. I'd never noticed them in Revengeance. I thought
Oh,
that was something that was that they'd come up for Clone Wars, but there was a
when they
couple of
first came
scenes.
back to Coruscant, is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's the first time. There was some
Mhm.
on the left side of the screen that I'd never noticed before, and then there was one. I want to say there was one on the stairs at the Opera House on Coruscant
Okay.
as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and that's just something I'd never noticed. I noticed the Imperial Guard transition uh, on. I don't know if I saw it in the theaters back in 2005 or if I saw that on DVD or Blu-ray or where, but I was aware of that one. Also, during the opening space battle, and this I don't know is because I had the benefit of a big giant screen, but I feel like every time I watch that space battle, I notice something new
Mhm.
that happened in the background. And this time there was a cruiser getting destroyed that I had never noticed that way being destroyed before.
Uh-huh.
But and part, like I said, part of it is I had advantage of this gigantic full size screen in front of me. The other part is I've seen this movie so many times now, I can let my attention wander away from the center of the
Yes.
screen where the action's
Mhm.
happening to the perimeters, and then that's how sometimes you notice the details there. But we're
Right.
coming off of our discussion that we just had with Oil and Voivod that included that opera house scene and the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and I just couldn't help but chuckle to myself when Palpatine was telling the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise and like how much we got into it when we were
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
that scene. I was
It's
just
so
smiling
true.
ear to ear the entire time. And my son was sitting next to me, and as soon as they started that, him and I just kind of both looked at each other and we nudged each other with our elbows on there because it's just you forget. Oh, I always forget how awesome that story is and how well it comes off until I'm watching it.
For
But
sure.
then to see my son get so into it as well, it was amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's such a gift to be able to share it with our kids, isn't it?
Mhm, mhm.
Such
Oh
a
yeah.
gift. So, did you see Ahsoka at Padme's funeral?
What?
I'm joking.
I was gonna say, it's like, hold on. This is the first I've heard of that.
No. Wouldn't that be something though if it was like a little, like, special edition Easter egg? No, I was totally goading you, Dennis. I'm sorry. I
You
couldn't
said it
resist.
so seriously. I was like, wait, what? You got me. Okay. Trying to think, what other things did I notice in the course of Mustafar. I noticed more Mustafarians around than I had seen in the
Mhm.
past. Um, and the other thing is that as good as that fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is when you're just watching it at home on your, 4K set or whatever it is, it just doesn't do it justice.
Oh no.
It does not hold a candle the way that comes off on a big screen. I mean, it is there. It is in your face. It seems faster. It seems more intense. Faster, more intense. George Lucas's favorite direction.
I was just gonna say, nice usage.
Yeah, I didn't that was not intended. It just came out that way. But just that climax of the film is just so much better on a movie screen.
It's incredible.
Mhm.
Absolutely incredible. And one other thing too, I was wondering was when all the Nemoidians shuffle off of the control center in The Invisible Hand with, when Grievous and the whole lot are right there. That's right before the ship tears apart. So
Mhm.
did that whole crew of Neimoidians perish with the back end of the ship, or did they make it back to Coruscant and then become, prisoners because they were in we're still flying half a ship. It's you see them scurry off and I'm like, whatever happened to them?
I can see them being like tossed around in the corridor outside
Yeah,
outside the bridge, and
yeah.
they're holding on for dear life. Some little crack in the wall that they found, and yeah, I'm sure they did
Magnetoid,
not enjoy
magnetoid.
whatever happened to them next. So,
Oh my gosh, probably not. And one more thing, not to be
mhm.
like disgusting or graphic, but just the fact that when Anakin cuts off Dooku's hands and you just see them just laying there, like the
Mhm.
rest of the time when he and Palpatine are talking about the Sand People and, what you told me about the Sand People. And you
Mhm.
can hear in the background, you can hear Qui-Gon go, no, and you
Yeah.
hear that sound effect. And I had heard that it was there before, but I'd never noticed that at home, and that totally stood out to me. But the whole thing with Anakin saying, "I shouldn't have, he was an unarmed prisoner," that gets me every time because he's literally an unarmed prisoner, Count
Yeah.
Dooku.
Well, it's the thud of Dooku's head
Yes.
hitting the
Yes.
deck. It's so much more audible
Yes.
on the
And
movie. So.
THX.
All right. Well, we could talk about this all night. And since we are spending so much time on Revenge of the Sith this year, we should probably move on to another story about Revenge of the Sith.
All
And that
right.
is the fact that it did so amazingly well at the box office. It racked up $42.2 million
That's
over that
incredible.
limited release, which was 25.2 domestically and 17 million internationally. For the week, it only finished behind one movie, which was Sinner, which came out just ahead of, I think, at about 45 million. And this puts it on in third place all time for re-releases, behind Lion King in 2011, the 3D version, which did $30 million, and then the champion would be Star Wars: A New Hope, the special edition in 1997, which did $36 million domestically. So
Wow.
it was a very successful release. In it's interesting because like I know a lot of people that went back last year and saw the Phantom Menace in theaters, and then the year before that saw Return of the Jedi. But it's even more this year. I've seen way more images of sold out theaters for Revenge of the Sith than did for those other movies.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I know the hype of this coming out was so big. So I
Mhm.
really hope that everybody that wanted to go out and see it in theaters definitely got a chance to do it. And I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that they will release Attack of the Clones because that is the one that I've never seen in theaters. I've mentioned that before on the podcast, but I'm still hoping that that one's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're gonna have to wait for that one because
Yeah.
I mean, 2027 would have been its 25th anniversary, but it's the 50th
Hmm.
anniversary of A New Hope. So
Yeah.
if one's going to get re-released in theaters, I'm betting it's A New Hope at that point. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I'm hoping
They
for
can
it. I'm
do them
keeping my fingers
6
crossed.
months.
But
Yeah, they can do them, like, 6 months apart, Just spread it out, spread the love.
well, the other problem we got is there's another Star Wars movie coming out that year.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Starfighter will be out at
Starfighter,
that same
yep,
time.
Ryan Gosling.
So maybe they won't do A New Hope in theater. They got to. I hope they do. I hope they don't.
Oh, I hope so too.
I mean, if Starfighter is coming out on Memorial Day, they could still do A New Hope at the beginning of the month.
For sure. Like a May the 4th kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, we have Celebration that year, so maybe they'll do a screening on a big screen of Attack of the Clones then.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah. Possibilities. Okay, we got it figured out for Lucasfilm. You can
There we
send
go.
your check to Podcast Stardust. Never mind. All right.
Ta-da.
Okay. Let's get into some other news here.
Okay.
So, Jay, do you ever play Fortnite?
I have not, but Colby-Wan has. I know.
Okay. Do you think he would have taken advantage of an opportunity to watch the first 2 episodes of Tales of the Underworld on Friday before the whole thing came out on Sunday, May the 4th?
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to ask him because I know whenever he doesn't play Fortnite very often,
Mhm.
but when he does, boy, this sounds like a commercial. He does not play Fortnite very often, but when he does, it is around May the 4th because so and we had actually talked about it a little bit when we went to see Revenge of the Sith, so I'm not sure if he did or not.
Yeah. Just kind of weird. They decided to debut the first 2 episodes of Tales of the Underworld on May 2nd at a watching party through Fortnite. I didn't even know such a thing was possible, but apparently there's some room you can go there and watch them. That there was some room you could watch the first 2. I'm
Wow.
fine with that. I mean, again, we're recording this early, so I don't know how it all went off, but I was more than willing to wait for the couple days to watch it on May the 4th. But they can do whatever they want. I mean, they showed those episodes to people that were in the room in Star Wars Celebration too, so people have seen them.
Mhm.
But just as seems a little odd that instead of releasing it on its subscription platform, they are releasing those 2 early to Fortnite subscribers.
Yeah.
I wonder what the inspiration for that was.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was some Darth Jar Jar, as your
Yeah,
like final boss or whatever. So there was that too.
yeah, we covered that in some of our celebration news.
Mhm.
So yeah, all right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. But we'll be talking about uh, Tales of the Underworld here in 2 parts and over the coming weeks because we just got so much to cover with Andor and Light Magic, and now this. It's just backing up for us. So we've got
Yes.
kind of problems to have, I suppose.
Exactly.
All right, so we are halfway through season 2 of Andor, which seems really weird to say after 2 weeks,
Yes.
and we're getting ready for the next 3 episodes, 7 through 9, on this Tuesday after this comes out. And the question has come up: when are we ever going to get K2SO in this show? And Tony Gilroy had an opportunity to speak about that with a Hollywood Reporter. And he basically said, limiting K2SO came from the experience of making Rogue. Rogue One. That's a shorthanded way of saying it, to be honest with you. From the very beginning, that was one of the most difficult parts of the original conversation. How long was I going to have to delay K2SO? Because what can you do with him? I don't want people to go back and diagram Rogue, but just within that movie, there are 2 or 3 or 4 places where we are hiding him, where he has to stay on the ship or can't go anywhere. He's a really, really difficult piece of equipment to carry through a story. Limitations on him are huge. He's a very visible, troublesome piece of story gear. So I knew intuitively how long I would have to wait to do it. I hadn't really thought about that, but that's an
Yeah.
interesting point that he made there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm listening to you say that, I mean, that's just from a design and a production standpoint, kind of an interesting way to put things. But, then on the other side, we also had, so much at Celebration with, just talking about K2 and the excitement of having him back on screen too. So, obviously when we do get him, we're going to love it, but it's not gonna be as much as we thought we were gonna get, which is kind of a bummer, but, it is what it
Yeah.
is.
I don't know if he shows up in the next story arc or the one that comes after, or the final one, but I'm assuming he's going to be a big part of whatever that is based on what
Yeah,
we've been teased in the various trailers for the show. But
yeah.
that makes sense. I hadn't really ever thought about it that way. I mean, because now that he said, don't go back and diagram Rogue One, I am going back and diagramming Rogue One in my mind. And sure, what happened on Edu? He hung out in the ship.
Mhm.
When they were on Jeddah, his first instruction was to basically hang out the ship, but then he got bored and he showed up in the middle of the city. But then he didn't go into Saw Gerrera's compound either. And he gets hidden in a number of places on Yavin 4. He has more scenes there, but it's really Scarif when he gets like the most opportunity to get out and walk around.
Right.
So Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes
I guess it
sense.
just feels like we saw him a lot more in the movie than we actually did, but when you break it down that way, yeah,
Mhm.
I guess we didn't have him in quite as many scenes as we might have thought.
Well, and whenever he's on the screen, he's memorable.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
so I think that helps that out as well.
Quality over quantity.
All right, just a couple more stories to go. Of course, yesterday, as of the day this comes out, was May the 4th, and there was a number of surprises revealed on Disney Plus. What they all are, I can't tell you because we're recording this in advance, but I can tell you a couple of them. First off, have you seen the new Disney Plus animation with the lightsaber when you turn the app on?
Yes, it's so glorious. Love that.
Yeah, that completely surprised me the other day. So you get that little lightsaber making the little arc that goes across the word to the plus. And then they have started a new Disney Plus stream called In a Galaxy Far, Far Away, which is just one of those lean back viewing experiences where they play Star Wars nonstop, one thing after the other. They got rid of the Hidden Heroes channel, and I guess
Oh,
they replaced it with this.
okay.
So yeah, there's a 20, a all day on Simpsons channel. There's this, and I can't remember what the other one that's new, but they keep introducing new ones here. And so now we have all Star Wars all the time.
That's awesome. And they did something similar to that last year where they kind of, combined everything or corralled everything sort of in one place,
Mhm.
but that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Have you done any of those streaming, always lean back viewing experiences that they're talking about ever with Disney Plus?
No, I haven't, and I know you have quite a few times, and I had been tempted to give it a shot, and I just haven't.
Yeah. It's a lot of, I like it. I mean, it's one of those things where I want to watch something, I just don't want to make a decision. One of the first things I'll do is turn on Disney Plus and see what was on that Hidden Heroes channel. And you get Pirates of the Caribbean, you get Marvel, you get Star Wars, you get all kinds of stuff. Um, I'm don't dislike Doctor Who, but I don't actively watch it. So like when that would come on, I'd change it to something else. But they typically it was just a good, if you don't want to make a decision, you just want to sit there and watch. It was always a fun thing to turn on. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Well, I wonder if they're gonna well, we will know now,
Mhm.
but of course, like we said, we're doing this going into it, but new avatars to choose from
That'd
for
be fun.
Star Wars? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I noticed I have Ahsoka from season 7 of the Clone Wars, and, big surprise, but I was looking to see what the other Star Wars avatars were recently,
Uh-huh.
and she's not even on there anymore as a choice, so I was super afraid to choose something else because I thought, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna lose her," N I have her now, but I don't wanna lose her. So I'm
Yeah, I hear
curious
you.
if there's more.
I'll have to go look. I'm still using the Mandalorian. So,
Nice.
and then there's going to be some other surprises, but we'll just have to wait to see what those are, and we'll maybe be able to talk about them next week.
There you go.
All right, final story of the week. If there was any doubt about whether Ahsoka season 2 is in production, speaking of Ahsoka Jay, Rosario Dawson has put an end to that. She has teased the commencement of the production by posting a picture on her Instagram account, and this is pretty cool. It's her shadow, but she's obviously got the Ahsoka costume on based on her
Mhm.
silhouette that shadow casts. Um, that was pretty fun. I like the way she did that.
Yes, I do too, and she's wearing different shoes.
Mhm,
That was my
mhm.
big takeaway.
Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering, did she just do that because she liked the way her shadow is being projected, or she couldn't take a picture of herself in her makeup because there's been some sort of a costume change they don't want to reveal yet?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both. She did tease that the Leku were longer, so and, it was a different kind of a headpiece, but,
Mhm.
yeah, but the pants look similar, but like I said, those
Yeah.
are definitely different shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we'll get that sometime next year. Can't wait.
Yes,
Looking
yes.
forward to it.
Mhm.
And that's what we got for this week's news. It's kind of hard to follow up all the news we did the previous week with everything coming out of Star Wars Celebration Japan, but this is what we got. And thank you all for joining us for it. And we hope you'll stick around for more editions of the news, our coverage of Light and Magic, season 2 of Andor, of Tales of the Underworld. That's a lot of stuff that we got coming up, including our ongoing series celebrating Revenge of the Sith with our 10-minute segments that we look at every month. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, then you won't miss any of it. And we greatly encourage you to do so. And once you've subscribed to the show, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate and review. That helps others find it and helps get us noticed in other places. And if you want more Podcast Stardust beyond what your podcatcher is going to carry for you, head over to retrozapp.com. You can find the entire catalog of shows there. Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody where we can be found online and social media?
Of course. So we are very easily and conveniently found, as always, at Podcast Stardust on all of your socials, including Facebook and Instagram. And we also have our 2 YouTube outlets, which include the traditional YouTube as well as YouTube Music. So please subscribe to both of those, share those out with your friends. And those also do support interactions and, ratings, reviews as well. So please hit us up because we would, love to hear what you did for May the 4th and, anything else that you're willing to share with us. And last but not least, we do have our TeePublic store. So we have a link in our show notes where you can go get all of the Podcast Stardust glory that you desire. So we have 7 different show logo designs available on all kinds of things from t-shirts, sweatshirts, and even home goods and other kinds of fun things as well. So once again, head up that link in our show notes.
All right. You want to remind everybody what you got going on in cosplay?
Sure. So this weekend coming up on May 10th, I will be doing a special appearance in North Olmsted for the Sweets and Geeks Pop Culture Con here in Ohio, which is close to Cleveland. So check out my Instagram at j.snipscosplay for all the details on that. And in the meantime, you can catch me as Ahsoka, the fourth sister, my 2 different versions of Hera, as well as my original concept Mandalorian, Princess Leia, and much, much more. So once again, that's j.snipscosplay.
Okay, upcoming on the show on Wednesday, we are going to discuss episode 1 from season 2 of Light and Magic, and a little bit of a spoiler. It's a lot about the Phantom Menace, so make sure you join us for that. It's a lot of fun. And then on Friday, we are getting back into Andor season 2 with a discussion of episodes 7 through 9. So make sure you stick around for that. But thanks for listening to episode 882 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great week, and until next time, may the Force be with you.